Hey, everybody. So I wanted to introduce you today to Nikki on my team to talk more about executive functioning and performance coaching, things on the lines of what I've talked with Tosca as well in the past about, but wanted to bring you to speed with one of my amazing counselors on the team and have you tell her about how she can help you stressed out students with time management, how she could be a coach to you. But without further ado, Nikki, please give a quick introduction to your side, what you've done, and how you could be of help to my teams.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Glad to be a part of this team. So I do a lot of college counseling, but I love to focus on with my students the academic performance coaching aspect of things. And so I have a background in education. I used to be a teacher. Side things, I'm also a professional athlete. So I like to work with a lot of athletes on the performance coaching in general. So it's not something that applies just for academics, but athletics, or maybe you're on the debate team, which is its own sort of competitive atmosphere, robotics team. So I do work with a lot of students who really want to achieve. But what happens sometimes is there are roadblocks that get in the way of that achievement. And sometimes it's executive function skills. So executive function skills refer to things like your time management, your organization, your ability to focus and stay focused for a lengthy period of time, managing stress, managing negative thoughts and feelings. So all of these facts need to be in a row in order to really increase that performance. I work with a lot of students with ADHD. We come up with lots of different methods to.
Sorry about that, Nikki. I had a little bit of a interruption in between. So, but go ahead. You were just saying something about working with the students with ADHD and the work that you've done before, but please go ahead.
This is a perfect example of distraction at play, but we're coming right back into it, right? So managing focus, managing attention, and distractions will come in from time to time, especially, teenagers. Yeah, it's about managing your phone, but it's also maybe a little bit managing your parents and tell them to give you a little bit of space so you can work on things. So overall, I really enjoy the academic performance coaching process because students really gain a ton of confidence once they learn how to take control of their time and take control of their focus. And these are lifelong skills. It's not just going to apply in school, it's going to apply in college, it's going to apply in your career. So working with students, not just seniors, but all the way up to down to freshman year, really helping to start those skills early. Sure that, especially the younger ones, that throughout their years of high school, they'll be able to stay focused, they'll be able to achieve all of their goals. And I know a part of the counseling program already with Success Coach is this mentorship program. And so with the mentorship program, you're going to be setting lots of goals, and I can certainly help brainstorm on that front. But really where I'm here to come into play is that how can you make sure that you achieve those goals? It's great to have goals, right? But if you don't have a structured process and a way to manage the roadblocks along the way, and to learn how to be more resilient and have more grit, then those goals might not be as achievable. So I really see myself as a supplemental part of the whole process. I have a ton of knowledge about college admissions in general. So that would be really good for me to apply that. But specifically what I'm here to help with is the performance of the students and of helping them make sure that they're achieving their goals in the timeline that they need to achieve them, to make this whole process as low stress as possible, because it's crazy and it definitely takes team effort. It takes a lot of effort on the students. And so we just want to make sure that the students are seeing what they have to do and achieving it in as smooth a way possible.
Let's take a use case over here, Nikki, which is, clearly we are, in a way, these students, the classic problem I get to hear from them is, Harpal, I don't have time for the meetings. I am not able to come to your meetings because I have so many other projects going, and I know you can be of help to me, but my problem is I'm just falling with priorities. I've got extracurriculars thing which my parents want me to do. There are certain extracurriculars that I want to do. Then there are academic pressures with homework and stuff to be done. And then there's fun time I want to have with my friends. And then you're having these summer programs lined up for me. You want time from me. And now you're bringing in Nikki to take time from me. I want it, but how do I use it? How do I put it all together? And maybe my rising seniors who are going to face a onslaught of massive work coming their way in the next few months, or it is my sophomores and ninth graders who I'm pushing, like Tosca's coming in with this mentoring program. How does your work fit in for both those, the rising seniors and then for the younger students?
Well, the first thing that I would try to figure out with a student who's really overwhelmed with all these things that they have to do is to figure out what are the top priorities. Because especially from the college counseling perspective, it's about quality, not quantity. And I work with a lot of families in the past who the kids are just doing so much stuff, so much stuff, so much stuff, but they themselves are spread so thin between all these activities that they're not getting the depth that they need in these activities to really be able to reflect on their contribution. And it does actually end up hurting them in the end in the college admissions process, because they don't have that much to say about each of these activities because they're just a participant, right? They're not growing into that leadership role. They're not challenging themselves and taking on new opportunities in those roles. So that might be one thing I talk about with the students and the family at first is, well, if the student is truly overwhelmed and doesn't have time for the college admissions process, then maybe we need to pick and choose what are the most important activities. And there's even been talk in the college admissions realm about the activities list, which right now you can have up to 10 activities, but they want to maybe reduce it to like 3 to 5. And so you're only going to be allowed to showcase those top few activities anyway, because colleges care more about quality over quantity. So that would be one of the main things I would try to establish for a student who just really is too jam-packed with their schedule. And that's sort of one situation. Now, the other situation is a student who truly does have the time, but isn't utilizing it properly. So there are plenty of students with plenty to do, but they still have plenty of time to spend hours watching Netflix or play video games. And taking time to relax is definitely important for, mental health and stress relief. And having a social life is definitely very important, but it's all about managing the balance, and also students who are very stressed out, they tend to find themselves more distracted, maybe watching more TV because that they're overwhelmed, and that's sort of the way that their brain is trying to reduce stress. So really it's going to be about how to manage the time, one thing I like to do with students is that we take a whole snapshot of everything they need to do. We look at their schedule, what they're spending time on, and it's really adjusting that to be what is best for that student's needs and desires and goals. So you also asked how this would actually look like in practice.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I would like to know, especially for my rising seniors who are going to start with summer programs, and at the same time, they're going to start working with me on the essay brainstorming, and then they'll start writing their personal essays, then they'll move to UC essays, supplementals, brag sheets, extracurriculars. Even saying these things start stressing me out, even though I know the process so well. So I feel bad for these students because they don't know the process. They're just trusting us at that point. So how would you help a student like that in the summer? Maybe that's the most critical use case coming up now.
Yeah, because there is a long to-do list, and a lot of it sounds simple to do, like, oh yeah, let me just write up my list of activities. But a lot of this isn't as simple as just writing a list. You have to really think about, again, back to that depth and what sort of impact you've been making in these activities, a way to really highlight your character traits as much as possible. So one thing that I see being useful for students is maybe they plan an initial meeting with me, maybe like in 45 minutes, an hour long, where we, in the beginning of the summer, sort of take this sort of long distance approach and say, okay, here are all the things you need to do. Let me talk to you about how long it will actually take versus how long you think it will take. Because like personal statement essays, for example, I mean, I haven't had a student write a good essay who didn't write 8 to 10 drafts. Right. And that takes a long time. Even supplemental essays, you're going through 3, 4, 5 drafts of it. Unless you come in a brilliant writer, clear communicator who already knows everything. But if you already knew anything, then what would you need us for? Right. So that's one thing I see is this initial sort of strategy session where we look at the large picture, we paint everything out, and I talk to the students and I get to know a little bit more about where they feel that they're most challenged in terms of their executive function skills or their organization skills. So once we have that initial meeting, once we set those sort of long-term checkpoints, then I see it being useful having maybe 30-minute check-in meetings, maybe once a week, maybe once every couple of weeks, depending on the student, where we just go over, okay, we set up this schedule. How are you sticking to it? You're sticking to it, great. Sounds good. We don't need to do another check-in for a while. Oh, you're not sticking to it? Well, what happened? What's been distracting you? What's been stressing you out? How can we manage those distractions? How can we manage those stressors? How can we manage our time better? How can we make this whole thing smoother? That's the whole goal. And something else that I think would be useful as an add-on service. We've been thinking about hosting office hours, I guess we'll call them, where I would sit on a Zoom call, invite a few students in at a time, and basically it's like a study hall where students who really need that structured time to sit down and get their work done, which there are a lot of students. I've had plenty of students in the past where I just log on and I watch them write essays, and sometimes that's what it takes. And so I see I'll be there, I'll be available for questions. Again, I have knowledge on the process, so I can speak to any question that they have, and it would just be a way for them to have, you know, a very tangible moment of time. You know, on Friday from 10 to 12, I'm going to go to the office hours, I'm going to work on my essay, my brag sheet, my whatever, my applications, my research. I'll share my screen so Nikki can see what I'm doing, and she's there for any questions that I have. And I can see that being very useful for some students who really need a little bit of oversight, which is just part of being a teenager. Your brain is growing and you might need that.
I like the way you presented the initial plan, which is creating a personalized plan, because every student is going to be different. Some have a very packed summer schedule, some have a lighter schedule, they have a little more, like maybe they're going on a trip a little later. So that same plan that an IEC comes up with, which is what I would come up with, saying, I need these things done by this date, or else that's going to be considered a ding. You could come in and move some of those deadlines out, or you could tailor the plan specifically for the student. And typically I get involved when they miss a deadline. You could get involved a lot sooner, working with them on specific areas where there are even smaller deadlines, which you maybe work out with the students on. The check-ins are great. Even those are 30-minute check-ins, that's awesome. But sometimes these students need just a note over a WhatsApp or something saying, hey, tell me.
15-minute check-in, you know, a text message check-in, whatever it takes.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So basically, we're trying to put this around the student. We're not trying to say, if you will invest time in the program, it will be worth it, because it's not that you're being called into a principal's office saying, why did it not happen? It's to the lines of, if something is not working for you, maybe you can communicate, Nikki can communicate that to the parents, tell the parents to back up, because parents are very stressed in this process as well, because stakes are high. Maybe you can get involved with that. Maybe you can work with the essay writers, asking them maybe to back off a little bit on some expectations. Maybe if I'm doing the same thing. So you've got the situation of perfect storm of looming deadlines. Type A people like myself, my writers are not as type A, but they are still very passionate, right? So we're very passionate people, and you come in as a more of a calming force at that point with the team. So I can see this working very clearly. Yeah.
Yeah, it does take a team effort. And I like what you said, like initially, right? It is the IEC, it is the college counselor's role to really set up the program, right? The writer's there to assist in the essays in particular. And so I would be there in order to make sure that this program that has been set up is flowing smoothly, is going along according to plan. And if anything pops up along the way, if I'm the first to hear about it, we can make a plan about it. Or if you or another, you know, counselor or the writer hears about something and I need to know, right? So we really see us all being, this is the management team for the project, which is your student getting into the top college of their choice overall. And just like raising a kid takes a village, this effort really takes a team.
And you could extrapolate the same perspective to the younger students, my ninth graders, 10th graders. They face the same agony from December through March, because that's when they're applying for summer programs, which is literally like applying for college applications all over again, or for the first
time. Yeah.
They go through the same frustrations where they're probably in some phases worse off, because they don't have the emotional maturity to deal with something so big, and writing brag sheets and recommendation letters, so for getting them from teachers. I've had students who, after writing phenomenal essays, missed the deadline because they forgot to check in with the teacher for the recommendation letter. And that's classic, very young, don't know the process. So those are areas as well. Maybe you could work with some of the younger students also, or any thoughts of how that would be different than working from the seniors?
I wouldn't say that my role would be particularly different, just the goal would be different, right? Instead of admission to college, it's admission to a summer program. Or if the student's even younger, if they're in 8th grade, or maybe they're trying to get into a prep school, then that is the ultimate goal. Or maybe the goal is to, you know, maybe you're auditioning for some sort of position in a, you know, leadership position in school. Whatever the goal is, my job would be to help the student achieve it and make sure that they are not getting in their own way.
Wonderful. I think this is phenomenal from Nikki. And so we'll post this information to the students, and let's hope there's, as they come forward with needing more from you, we'll go from there. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much. Glad to be part of the team and help out.